Начинается.
Greetings, folks. Admiral Makarov here with a World of Warships replay. Today we are featuring Mudslinger 5050 in the premium Tier 6 Soviet light cruiser, the Admiral Makarov. He is division with Power War 10,000 in the premium Tier 6 U.S. Navy destroyer, the USS Monahan. They are in a domination match on Bring. They are top tier, which is quite unusual in my experience for Tier 6 ships, and there are aircraft carriers in play. Mudslinger is bringing the commander from his Moskva, which explains most of the choices around his commander skills. And I guess he wanted to be doubly sure that the ship was not going to detonate today, since he has both the magazine modification upgrade in slot 1, as well as using the Juliet Charlie signal. So this ship is a machine gun. It has very high DPM, and we'll get a little more into that in detail here shortly. And Mudslinger is certainly going to exemplify some of the key capabilities of this ship during the match. So historically, the Makarov is the light cruiser Nuremberg from the former Kriegsmarine. Now, the Nuremberg was one of only 2 capital ships of the Kriegsmarine that survived the war, the other being the heavy cruiser Prince Eugen, and the Eugen was ceded to the United States for war reparations, and the Nuremberg was ceded to the Soviet Union. Now, in-game, the Makarov is effectively the Nuremberg with the C hull, which means that it gets somewhat better AA over the B hull. It loses 1 torpedo launcher on each side, so it has 3 torpedoes on each side of the ship, and it has no slot for the fighter plane, unlike the B hull of the Nuremberg. Now, the Makarov does retain the gun systems of the Nuremberg, so it has a 6-second reload, it has the same shell ballistics, and this is basically a giant DPM machine. And provided that you can mitigate its chief weakness, which is its extreme fragility, this ship can be extremely capable. It again has probably the highest rate of fire of light cruisers until you get to some of the upper tiers in the game. And but because it does have this very exposed citadel and relatively small health pool, it is an easy prey for battleships and even many heavy cruisers alike. So the Makarov can mount hydroacoustic search as well, but it is the sort of standard hydroacoustic search. It does not get access to the enhanced or buffed German hydroacoustic search for this ship. So getting to the gameplay, Mudslinger and Power War have moved to the Alpha Cap to help take and defend that cap. The teams are relatively evenly split between Alpha and Delta to be able to contest 2 areas. And Mudslinger has been putting some sustained fire on this opposing Alba. I think he's going to switch to AP here shortly. So one of the strengths of the Makarov, in addition to its high DPM, it does also retain the German cruiser AP benefits, which have the highest alpha of all AP shell characteristics at caliber within the game. The main weakness of the AP is that penetration falls off rapidly with angling. So where most cruisers, not even U.S. Navy cruisers, tend to have relatively good penetration at the 45-degree angle perspective on opposing ships. The German cruisers tend to struggle more with penetration, even when ships are relatively modestly angled. So you really need to have a pretty flat broadside for the AP to be really effective. But when it is effective, it is very devastating, and we'll have a couple of places during this battle where Mudslinger is going to showcase the capabilities of the AP. Now, looking at the tactical situation, the Allied team on the east side at Delta has been thinned heavily, and basically it kind of looks like a lemming train right now, although that's not how things were when it first started. It's just that the opposing team on the Delta cap has been more effective in being able to shut down Mudslinger and Power War's team. So the key here is going to be ensuring that we hold on to the Alpha Cap, and then turning around and defending the flank on the east side, because the opposing team now has very little resistance in being able to move up the east side and be able to challenge the Bravo cap. And in fact, that's exactly what Mudslinger is going to do here after he continues firing on this opposing Nuremberg. He is going to turn around and head back toward Bravo to help defend against the flank that's pushing, the opposing flank that's pushing up on the east side. This is a place I probably would have used the AP on the Nuremberg, but the Nuremberg was very low health at that point, so it wouldn't have really mattered. And he was sunk by Power War, who had gotten a torpedo on him. So the things are pretty even. The Allied team has a one-ship advantage. They both teams hold 2 caps. So things right now are in terms of the game situation are relatively okay, and it's going to be around this point that Mudslinger is going to turn around and start moving back toward Bravo, because you can see that there are a good half dozen ships that are on the east side. They're going to be able to push up and through, including a couple of destroyers on the opposing team. And they will certainly be a threat to the Allied carrier, which is on the north side of Bravo. Now, Power War in the Monaghan has moved into the Charlie cap and is now contesting that cap, but he's under some significant pressure here because a part of the opposing team is coming back to Charlie to defend that cap, and that's going to put the Monaghan under some stress to try to stay in that cap, which he won't be able to. He's basically going to leave the cap, which is the right choice to do. He just doesn't have enough close support and an overwhelming support to be able to effectively take that cap. We can see that there's an opposing Acosta at Echo 9 that is moving up the east side. He has a cruiser with him that's right behind. I believe that's a Dallas. So they're going to start, again, putting pressure on that east flank. And there's also at least, I know that there's at least one other destroyer on the opposing team that's on the east side that we just haven't detected yet that is moving up. And Mudslinger is going to intercept that destroyer as he moves back towards Bravo here in a few minutes. So one of the other advantages of the Makarov and the Nuremberg is that they have very good range for this tier at 16.5 kilometers. The shell ballistics do get pretty floaty out beyond about 12 kilometers. The shell velocity is excellent. Out of the barrels, it's 900 meters per second, which is very fast, but these shells are very light, and so they lose velocity quite quickly as distance increases, and so they tend to see less of a linear time to target. They tend to increase quite highly. Now here is a place where the strength of the German AP, cruiser AP, comes into play. First salvo out on the Pensacola, he gets 1 citadel. The second salvo out, he gets 3 more citadels, and he finishes off that heavy cruiser. So now again, Mudslinger has moved back towards Bravo. He's come to intercept the Dallas here that is putting pressure on. There's a cruiser that's in Bravo 9. He's trying to help defend his Allied Nuremberg from this Dallas, although the Allied Nuremberg has considerably better health. And here the Dallas is going to make a turn, so where Mudslinger had AP loaded, he's going to have to switch back to HE until the Dallas provides a more favorable angle. There you just saw there was an AP salvo where 5 shells hit and they all bounced. Here he switches back to AP because the Dallas is giving him a lot of side. And I think he's going to get another citadel here. Yeah, he does. And then that almost finishes off the Dallas, and he just needs to get another overpen at a minimum in order to finish off the Dallas. And that is his 3rd kill, and he's up to almost 60,000 damage. Now here is the other opposing destroyer that I mentioned that we had yet to have detected, or that was moving up the east flank. That's the Nicholas here. This is a place where when I'm in my Nuremberg, my torpedo alarm bells are going off, and where I much prefer to have, just for my own interests, I much prefer to have the hydroacoustic search to be able to detect and avoid torpedo sends from the Nicholas. The Nicholas can send 6 torpedoes per side, And Mudslinger is definitely within range of the Nicholas's torpedoes. And then here's another strength of the Makarov and the Nuremberg. So the two rear turrets rotate 360. And so this allows you to be able to switch sides very efficiently, like he's done with both the opposing Nicholas and here now with this opposing Costa. And that earns him Kraken Unleashed. So he's already taken down 5 of the 9 opposing players on the team. Now, you may have noticed there about 30 seconds ago, he just took a very bad salvo from the sole opposing battleship, which is the Smutsu. And this is the place where, as a Nuremberg player, you sort of, any battleship fire can end up deleting you. It doesn't matter which angle you present. They're going to be able to overmatch you and be able to take you out. Just the only way that you would be able to bounce is if by some bad luck they happen to hit your main belt at a very steep angle. But at this distance, it's unlikely that will happen from the Mutsu. He basically would be able to delete the Nuremberg straight up. And here, frankly, Mudslinger gets away with, very luckily, with just a bunch of overpens, and he's able to survive that latest salvo from the Mutsu. I'm sure the Mutsu player was quite frustrated. And here comes the Allied Leander with his smoke screen and kind of saves Mudslinger's bacon here to get him into concealment, and now he can put some sustained fire on the Nagato. Oh, I'm sorry, on the Mutsu. Gets 1 fire. I think he does get a second fire here. But between the Leander and Mudslinger's DPM here, they're going to be able to finish off this Mutsu. Yeah, it does look like the Mutsu is burning in 2 places right now. And there, Mudslinger earns high caliber. He's up to over 95,000 in damage. The Allied carrier is dropping the Mutsu. It looks like that drop was quite far away from the Mutsu, so I don't think the carrier gets any torpedoes on the battleship. But between the fire of both the Leander and Mudslinger, they're going to be able to finish off this battleship. Again, another benefit of the Makarov being a Nuremberg is that it benefits from the 1/4 pen on its HE shells, which means the 150 millimeter guns can penetrate well in excess of 30 millimeters of armor plating. So it's a very effective. IFHE is definitely not required for this light cruiser. And here, and I think it's in this salvo, or maybe it's the next salvo, Mudslinger is going to finish off the Mutsu for his 6th ship. And there the Mutsu just finished off the Allied Nuremberg that was up in the north east corner of the map. So we're now down to a 4-on-1 situation with the sole opposing ship at this point is the Podvoisky. The Allied team has a huge point lead. They're well over 900 points now. The Allied New Mexico, which is the only Allied battleship on the team, is far too close to the Podvoisky. The Podvoisky, even though it only has 4-kilometer torpedoes, has a lot of them, and this New Mexico has simply wandered too close. The Podvoisky takes a very bad salvo there from the New Mexico. And in fact, the secondaries you can see are going in on the Podvoisky. Almost gets the Podvoisky down, but the Podvoisky is able to slip back into cover in his smoke screen while the New Mexico is sailing away. But we're going to pan over here to the right-hand side. And you can see that the New Mexico is flooding out, and he will actually end up going down here in just a moment. So down to less than 40 points to win, or just about 40 points to win. Now, the Allied carrier is doing a good job keeping his planes over the location of the destroyer. So as soon as the destroyer comes out of his smoke, he will basically be instantly detected. And here, Mudslinger, who's heading back south, is going to be able to put some fire on the Podvoisky. There goes the Allied New Mexico. And there is the Podvoisky. He has just a few hundred hit points. Mudslinger's going to line up here to send out some salvos around looks like around 13 kilometers, and this first salvo is indeed going to finish off the Podvoisky for Mudslinger's 7th kill of the game. So terrific job, almost 113,000 in damage. Kraken unleashed, high caliber, Confederate. The Makarov is indeed a very capable ship, as is the Nuremberg. So I certainly hope you enjoyed the replay and the commentary. Please do leave your comments below, and as always, we hope to see you out there, and we wish you happy sailing.